Two men. One spent his entire life as a janitor. He drove a used car. He wore secondhand clothes. He never made a single headline. When he died, he left behind $8 million. The other man had a Harvard MBA. He climbed to the top of Merrill Lynch. He was featured in financial magazines as a genius. He died bankrupt. The janitor's name was Ronald Read. The executive's name was Richard Fosconi. And here's what nobody tells you about that story. It wasn't luck. It wasn't skill. It wasn't even intelligence. The difference between these two men came down to one thing: behavior. Because here's the truth that Wall Street doesn't want you to know. Financial success is not about being smart. It's about how you behave with money. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what separates people like Ronald Read from people like Richard Fosconi. Stay until the end, because there's one concept I'm going to share that quietly explains almost every financial disaster in history. Let's get into it. Before I reveal that secret, I need you to understand something uncomfortable. A lot of what you think you earned, you didn't fully earn. And a lot of what you think you failed at wasn't fully your fault either. Let me tell you about two kids. Both were brilliant. Both were ambitious. Both had the drive to change the world. One of them became the richest man on the planet. The other, one died before he ever got the chance. The first kid was Bill Gates. He attended Lakeside School in Seattle, one of the only high schools in the entire United States with a computer in 1968. Not a computer lab, a computer, one machine. The odds of any kid in the world attending that school, about 1 in a million. Gates himself has said, if there was no Lakeside, there would be no Microsoft. His friend Kent Evans was just as smart, just as driven. The two of them were going to take over the world together. But Kent Evans died in a mountaineering accident before he graduated high school. Same talent, same ambition, different outcomes. Because luck and risk are siblings. They are two sides of the same coin, and they govern far more of your financial life than you realize. That doesn't mean effort doesn't matter. It means you should be humble when you win and compassionate when others lose. The person who failed might have just been Bill Gates without the computer. The person who succeeded might have just been Kent Evans who survived. This is why the wisest investors never say, I figured it out. They say, I survived long enough for compounding to work. Which brings me to the most important financial concept you've probably never thought about. I want to ask you something. If I said, Warren Buffett, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Most people say, genius investor, high returns, stock picking. But here's the stat almost nobody talks about. Warren Buffett is worth around $100 billion. $81.5 billion of that came after he turned 65. Read that again. He started investing at age 11. He became a millionaire in his early 30s. He was already a legendary investor by 50. But 81% of his wealth came in the last third of his life. Not because his returns got better, because he never stopped. There's a simple truth hidden in that number. Compounding is not about rate of return. It's about time in the market. Think of it this way. If you earn 12% a year and cash out after 10 years, you do okay. But if you earn 10% a year and never stop for 50 years, you become one of the richest humans who ever lived. The difference isn't brilliance, it's survival. Morgan Housel calls this survival thinking. Don't try to win big, don't try to time the market, don't make one legendary bet. Just stay in the game. Here's a simple example everyone gets wrong. Being rational sounds better than being reasonable, but rational is a math problem. Reasonable is a human problem. Rational says, invest every dollar you have right now. The math supports it. Reasonable says, keep some cash so you don't panic and sell everything in a downturn. Reasonable wins, because reasonable keeps you in the game. The best financial plan isn't the one with the highest return, it's the one you can actually stick to. And that brings us to the most seductive trap in personal finance. Picture this. You're stopped at a red light. A Ferrari pulls up next to you. What do you feel? You don't admire the driver. You imagine yourself behind the wheel. That's the man in the car paradox. We buy expensive things thinking people will admire us. But people don't admire us. They admire themselves as they imagine being us. Nobody is thinking about you. They're thinking about how they would look in your car. So you spent $200,000 to impress people who didn't notice you. This is how wealth quietly destroys itself. Because here's the counterintuitive truth. Wealth is not what you see, the nice car you see, the big house you see, the designer clothes you see. Those are all money that has already been spent. Real wealth is invisible. It's the investment account nobody knows about. It's the sabbatical you could take, but chose not to yet. It's the freedom to say no. Ronald Read, the janitor, understood this. He never tried to look rich. He just quietly became rich. Meanwhile, Richard Fosconi, the Harvard banker, looked rich and quietly became broke. The greatest wealth signal you can send, not needing to send one, but even people who understand this can fall into the final trap. And it's the most dangerous one of all. His name was Rajat Gupta. He grew up poor in India, orphaned young, built himself from nothing. He became the CEO of McKinsey, the most prestigious consulting firm on earth. He sat on the boards of Goldman Sachs and Procter & Gamble. He was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and then he threw it all away. For what? To get a little closer to the billion-dollar club. To impress men who were richer than him, he was convicted of insider trading in 2012. Everything he'd built was gone. Bernie Madoff was the same story, a respected Wall Street icon, one of the most successful traders in the world. Already wealthy beyond comprehension, he ran the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. Not because he was desperate, but because the goalpost kept moving. Here's the psychology behind it. The hardest financial skill isn't picking stocks. It isn't building a budget. It isn't understanding compound interest. It's knowing when you have enough. Because capitalism is designed to make you feel like you never do. More salary, more status, more house, more car. The goalpost never stops moving unless you move it yourself. And here's the simple truth. Most financial gurus skip. Getting wealthy requires optimism. Staying wealthy requires paranoia. Gupta and Madoff had the first. They forgot the second. They already had everything. They risked everything for more, and they lost everything. Enough is not a failure. Enough is the finish line. So what does all of this actually mean for your life? Here's what I want you to walk away with today. The highest dividend money can pay you is not a stock gain, it's not a salary bump, it's not a bigger house. It's control over your time. The ability to wake up on a Monday and do what you want to do. To say no without explaining yourself. To take a walk at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday because you can. That is rich. Not the Ferrari, not the watch, not the Instagram grid. Ronald Read never made headlines. He never had a Forbes profile. He drove a used car and fixed his own jackets with safety pins. But every single day, he was quietly building something more valuable than status. He was building freedom. So here's my challenge for you this week. Instead of asking, how do I get more? Ask yourself, what would be enough? Write the number down, give the goalpost a final location, then build toward that. And stop moving it. That's the secret. Not intelligence, not luck, not a hot stock tip. Behavior, time, and knowing when you have enough. If this video made you think differently about money, share it with one person who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper, Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, is one of the best financial books ever written. Genuinely. I'll see you in the next one.